Thanks so much for joining us for another edition of our open mic program. As we move on here, we do have Congressman French Hill with us. And Congressman, thanks so much for joining us, and congratulations on the election. I don't think we officially said that on open mic, but we want to do that here as well.
Well, thanks, Bob. It's good to be with you, and hope you had a great Thanksgiving.
It was fantastic. I ate more than I should, as we all probably did. But one thing we got to talk about, there's a lot of stuff going on in the news, and I wanted to come out of the gates a little bit and talk about the COVID relief, the bipartisan on the Senate side. This is some really good when you hear Democrats, Republicans, Independents saying $900 billion stimulus package for COVID relief. And that's got some promising. If they can get that done and it goes back to the House is sitting at like $3 trillion or more dollars. What do you think will happen?
Well, it is important work, because to be successful here in the lame duck session, I think the bill is going to have to originate in the Senate, where Mitch McConnell calls the shots. So what 8 senators have done on a bipartisan basis is try to put forward a common sense set of COVID relief measures that they hope they can get 60 votes for in the Senate. That's what they're working on this week. If they are able to do that, I don't have any doubt that there are enough Democrats and Republicans in the House to pass it. This has been blocked, as you know. Any progress on COVID relief has been blocked since late summer by Speaker Pelosi, who wants $2.5 trillion of a wish list of spending items and many, many non-COVID related policy changes. And this has just gotten nowhere in the Senate. It's been not supported by the Trump administration, and it's not even supported fully by her conference now. And I think a lot of her members actually lost their elections because of the way she's handled this issue in the past 4 months.
Well, when you look at the COVID, I mean, it's so amazing. We've been talking about this weekly in updates, but the next thing we look at is Operation Warp Speed. This is something that we can really brag on Americans. I mean, we said that the end of the world was coming because we didn't have ventilators. Ford stepped up, made ventilators. We've said that we're going to have a vaccine. They said it'll be in April, maybe even the summer. And here we're looking at it hitting Arkansas maybe before the end of the year.
Exactly. This has been a big success of our COVID relief package from back in the spring, the CARES Act. Congress put up $10 billion to use with the Trump administration to encourage American business and global pharmaceutical companies to go at warp speed to create therapeutics to cure the disease and fight it, and a vaccine to prevent it. And it has really worked like clockwork. We got the genetic information about how to fight this COVID-19 virus around the middle part of January. And here we are at the end of November, 1st of December, with not one, not two, but 3 vaccines by 3 different companies with using 3 different strategies that have very significant efficacy, that is success rates in vaccinating against the virus. So and this is not the end. We're going to have more therapeutics from that investment, and we're going to have more vaccines announced over the next few weeks. These are just the ones that completed their human trials. And it's amazing. The lab work was finished. The animal trials were finished. The preliminary human trials were finished. And then the mass human trials were finished, all in 10 months.
That is America at its best. And that's putting all politics aside. It's amazing when you look at that warp speed and operation. My hat's off to America for that.
Well, it's a great teamwork between the private sector of innovators and the public sector at the National Institutes of Health, the Center for Disease Control, the Federal Food and Drug Administration. And a lot of people don't know the Pentagon. The DOD Logistics Organization is going to help distribute and store that vaccine for all 50 states.
Now, something else that's come up in the news that a lot of people have been looking at is the religious freedom really has been kind of stifled by many governors in our land. Describe what's going on here. It even went to the Supreme Court.
This is a global issue where from countries from Africa to Europe to our own United States have put more restrictive conditions, more restrictive public health conditions on faith communities than other normal secular activities or public assembly, like rioting in Chicago or protesting in Washington, D.C. And we believe this is wrong. And the courts believe it is wrong. Kansas has lost in federal court from their governor's dictatorial powers. The Kentucky governor has lost in federal court. And last week, New York lost in a Supreme Court case, 5-4, saying that you could not inhibit people's inherent right to religious liberty. And look, let's be practical about this. And I think Governor Hutchinson's done a good job in Arkansas. We want our religious faith communities to follow the CDC standards of social distancing, hand washing, wearing a mask. All those things are important things to prevent the spread. But how can it be right to shut down an open, outdoor faith service while people are filling up Walmart and Home Depot parking lots and going about their daily business 100 feet away? It makes no sense.
Now, another thing that's really neat, and it's some history, I'm going to give you a little time on this, and that's the Jones Post Office Portrait Act passing the Senate. You were the one that kind of pushed this through for a great stature of a man from Little Rock.
Yeah, this is a fascinating story. We commemorated the 100-year anniversary, the centennial of the horrendous Elaine Massacre of 1919 near Elaine, Arkansas, over in Phillips County near Helena. This is where there were riots, and 12 black sharecroppers were accused of essentially mass murder of white citizens. It turned out that that's not the case, but it was common across the South in those months for a lot of lynching and horrible atrocities against our black citizens. And these 12 sharecroppers were found guilty of murder in state court in Arkansas. And so it came time to defend them and get them off by an appeal, and that was led by Scipio Africanus Jones, one of the most recognized, best educated, most successful lawyers in Little Rock, Arkansas, in probably the history of Little Rock, Arkansas. Scipio Jones was a black American, did a remarkable job. The 12 sharecroppers were found innocent, and he set a precedent for the future of civil rights legislation in our state and our nation. So Jones Post Office is there on Main Street in Little Rock, and citizens wanted to hang a beautiful portrait of him in that post office, but they were prohibited by the Postal Service. They said you cannot hang any portrait of Jones in the Jones Post Office. So we had to introduce a bill in Congress to change the law to allow it. And I appreciate Tom Cotton and John Bozeman joining me over in the Senate. We've now passed that bill in the House and Senate, and it will now go to President Trump for his signature. And we'll honor the memory of Scipio Jones and his great legal scholarship very, very well with a beautiful portrait of him there hanging in the post office in Little Rock.
Isn't that something? What great stories we hear of Arkansas. This has really been a great open mic. French, I tell you, we've had so much information. That's what happens when we take a week or so off for the holidays. We have to load up here on an open mic. Great stuff.
Well, Bob, it's great to be with you. Thanks for the time.